The full arch implant market is more competitive than ever. It seems every few months a new full arch office is opening, or a new doctor is starting to offer all-on-4 implants. And you know what else is more common than ever? Dental marketing companies who claim to be experts in full arch marketing. And if you're a dentist in the full arch game, you're probably working with or have worked with some of these marketing companies in the past. You're spending $10,000, you're spending $10,000, $20,000, even $50,000 and more a month. And when you want to do more, and when you want to do more cases, the marketing companies typically have two pieces of brilliant advice. They say either spend more money on ads or lower your arch fee. And they're right. If you spend more money on ads, you probably will get more arches. And if you offer discounts or lower fees, you'll probably do more arches too. And of course, this is the advice the marketing companies give you, because more ad spend means more management fees for them. And lowering your price makes their job easier. It's way easier for them to get leads for a $15,000 arch than it is for a $30,000 arch. But that kills your profit margin and floods you with difficult patients with unrealistic expectations. You don't need an expert for that kind of advice. The truth is that most dentists who work with these big marketing companies and are successful in spite of this generic advice, not because of it. And these marketing companies have proven over and over again with their slick Instagram reels and massive multi-million-dollar conferences that their real skill is selling their services to dentists, not selling implants to patients. But what if there was a way to do more arches without spending an extra dime on ad spend or marketing fees? What if you could identify the real bottlenecks in your implant patient journey and then know which levers to pull to fix those bottlenecks? So that's what this presentation is about. Forget the marketing agency generic advice and excuses. Of course, if you want to do more arches and take the easy way, just spend more money on ads and it's probably going to work. But in this presentation, we're going to dissect the full arch funnel. The entire journey your patient takes from having no idea you exist all the way to accepting treatment. Understanding this journey or this funnel is the key to taking back control of your practice and doing more arches without spending more money on ads. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Ling, and on this channel, we talk about one thing and one thing only, and that's how to do more full arch implants. And this presentation is all about the full arch funnel. Mastering this funnel will free you from the generic advice and exorbitant fees of the big full arch marketing companies. And by the end of this video, you'll have benchmarks to compare your own practice against so that you can identify the specific bottlenecks in your own practice's funnel. And you'll have 28 different areas in your practice that you can improve to do more arches without spending more money on ads. If you learn to master your funnel, I can promise you that it's virtually impossible for you not to do more arches. So here are the steps of your full arch funnel. Whether you call it that or not, you already have a funnel, because a funnel is simply the journey a patient takes from having no idea you exist all the way to accepting treatment. And in your office, it probably works something like this. A patient sees an ad, or maybe they are referred by their friend or their family. They visit your website or a landing page. They click something on that website or fill out a form, and they become a lead. And eventually they call and make an appointment. So they come for a consultation. And then after the consult, they end up doing treatment. That's a funnel, simple as that. Now, the reason why it's called a funnel is because this journey isn't linear. The way it works in real life is that you have to have a whole bunch of stuff in the top of the funnel to get a little bit of treatment out of the bottom. So a whole bunch of people have to see your ads to get just one or two arches out of the bottom of your funnel. And all along the way, you're going to have leaks in your funnel where these patients don't make it all the way through. And in our practice, we've been doing this long enough, and we've examined enough other doctors' funnels to identify certain benchmarks for each step of the funnel. And knowing these benchmarks is key because you can compare your practice against these benchmarks to see where the bottlenecks are in your funnel. So the key benchmarks that we've identified in the full arch funnel are as follows. First, when you have an ad, you should expect to pay less than $20 to $50 per cost per lead. And when those people visit your landing page, you should aim to get greater than 10 to 20% landing page conversion. And when these people become leads, you can expect greater than 5 to 10% to become appointments. And when you're doing consults, you should probably expect more than 40 to 60% case acceptance rate. And when you're doing these consults, you should expect greater than 40 to 60% go ahead with some sort of treatment. So these are the key benchmarks here. Less than $20 to $50 cost per lead, greater than 10 to 20% landing page conversion, greater than 5 to 10% appointment conversion, and then greater than 40 to 60% case acceptance. Now let's back up just to give you some definitions so these benchmarks are more clear about exactly what they mean. First of all, a landing page is simply a specialized website. It's a specific website used to gather the patient's contact information. Some doctors just use their homepage for this, but eventually you're probably going to want a landing page. And on this channel, we'll do more videos about the difference between a landing page and a website and why you might want one versus the other. But for our purposes in this video, just consider a landing page a specific type of website. So cost per lead is exactly what it sounds like. If you spend $100 on Google Ads and you get 10 leads, then your cost per lead is $10. You simply take your ad spend divided by the number of leads you get, and that's your cost per lead. Lead nurture is what happens once you get the patient's contact information, but they haven't quite made an appointment yet. And usually we're doing a series of text messages, calls, and emails. And again, we'll do some other videos about the details of this, of exactly what you say, how often, and how you say it. Your appointment rate is how many of these leads actually become consults. And then your case acceptance rate is simply what percent of your consults actually go ahead with any form of treatment. So now that you have a better idea of what these things mean, let's review the benchmarks again. Your cost per lead should be $20 to $50. Your landing page conversion should be greater than 10 to 20%. Your appointment rate should be greater than 5 to 10%. And your case acceptance rate should be greater than 40 to 60%. So it's one thing to know these benchmarks, but how do you know what these numbers are in your practice? If you're working with a marketing company, they should be able to provide you with the cost per lead and your landing page conversion rate. Those are very easy numbers for them to pull. If they won't give them to you, I'd be wondering why it's such a secret. And then your appointment rate and your case acceptance rate, I would just track those internally. And keep in mind that when you're tracking these stats, they don't need to be super precise. There's all kinds of error in this data, and it doesn't really matter. Think of it like checking the weather. You don't need to know the exact percent humidity and the wind speed. All you need to do is take a peek outside the window to decide whether or not you need to bring a jacket or not. So these stats are just like peeking out the window to check the weather. It's just an indication, not a precise measurement. So let's start dissecting the full arch funnel. Those benchmarks that we talked about are all written right here. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of the funnel, which are in the center here. And then these here are the 28 different levers that you can pull to fix the bottlenecks in your funnel once you've identified them. Let's start at the very top of the funnel, which is before we even look at the funnel steps. Because there's 3 critical things that you have to understand and master before even bothering looking at your funnel. It's identifying your unique selling proposition, learning how to communicate with patients using future, not features, and then understanding how to build and sell with trust. If you don't have a strong understanding of these 3 things in your practice, then this whole funnel is going to fall apart. On the other hand, if you have studied and mastered these 3 things, that supercharges your funnel and makes everything else in the funnel work better. And on this channel, you'll find specific videos on each of these 3 things. So make sure you check them out. Every funnel has some sort of constriction. And if you don't identify that constriction and you just keep trying to pour more and more water in the funnel, you'll get a constant rate of water dripping out the bottom, which is your treatment, and all this extra water will just leak over the edges and be wasted. And that waste represents your ad spend. So if you want to do more arches, why not just spend more money on ads? Aside from the obvious reason that it costs you a lot more money, the more important reason is that every funnel has some sort of constriction. And if you just keep trying to pour more and more water into this funnel without addressing this constriction, you're going to get a steady rate of water dripping out the bottom, which is your treatment. And as you pour more water on the top, the water is just going to spill out of the funnel and it's going to be wasted. And that's just wasted ad spend. So in virtually every funnel that I've ever studied for full arch dentists, there's a massive constriction somewhere. And that's why when these dentists try to do more arches and just spend more and more money on ads, their ROI on that ad spend gets lower and lower. Because until they fix this constriction in their funnel, all this extra ad spend is just wasted money. Except for your marketing company who loves it, because of course they're charging you a retainer or a percentage of your ad spend. So let's look at how to identify the bottlenecks in your funnel. And it all comes back to those benchmarks. If we look at your ads, for example, and if you were to ask your marketing company what your cost per lead is, and they tell you that's $100 for every $1,000 of ad spend, you're getting 10 leads, meaning a $100 cost per lead. And you know that the benchmark in our full arch funnel is $20 to $50 per lead. That means that your cost per lead is more than twice the benchmark. And that means there's some bottleneck here. And why is your cost per lead so high? And are there ways that we can lower that cost per lead? Because lowering that cost per lead by half would have the same effect as doubling your ad spend. But of course, it doesn't cost you any money. And if you wanted to improve your cost per lead, here are the areas that you could work on. You could work on improved headlines, hooks, offers, targeting platforms, and assets. And what do all these things mean? We already have or will have videos on each of these topics, what they are, why they matter, and how to improve them yourself. For your landing page, if you ask your marketing company what your landing page conversion is, and they tell you it's something like 5%, then that's a sign of another bottleneck, because we know from our full arch funnel that your landing page conversion should be greater than 10 to 20%. And here's what I would do to improve my landing page conversion rate. I'd work on things like the congruency, the headlines, the hooks, the social proof, the objection handling. And I promise you, if you had a landing page and you just paid a little bit of attention to these 5 things, it would be almost impossible for your landing page conversion rate to not increase. And it doesn't cost you any money. And remember, doubling your landing page conversion from 5% to 10% has the same effect as doubling your ad spend, except you don't actually have to spend the money every single month. Let's look at some more examples lower down on the funnel. The lead nurture is something that you'd have to track internally. But if you ask your treatment coordinator or your front desk or whoever's handling your leads, how many people that become leads, that contact you, that reach out about implants, actually become consultations? And they tell you that hardly anybody does. You get tons of contacts, but no appointments. Then this might be the bottleneck, because you know that you should have at least 5 or 10% of your leads becoming consults. And if they're not, here are the areas to work on. You can work on speed to lead, automation, frequency, duration, objection handling, and your new patient call skills. And lastly, in your actual consult, ask your treatment coordinator, or maybe you track this internally already, what % of your consults actually go ahead with treatment? And if your treatment coordinator tells you that only about 1/3 of your cases go ahead with treatment, then you know this is way too low. I wouldn't spend another dime on ads until you get this up to at least 40 to 60%. And how do you do that? Well, you work on things like persuasion, case acceptance skills, pre-screening your patients so you're only getting in front of high-quality leads, objection handling, strategic pricing, financial presentation, payment options, and your follow-up. Now, this is the area of the funnel that I'm most interested in tinkering with. So we're going to have tons of content on this channel on these specific areas. Now, this may all feel overwhelming right now, but the important thing to understand is that we're looking for small improvements over time. We're not looking at doubling or tripling or doing things way better than you're doing now. All you need is a 5% improvement, a 10% improvement. Because if you work on this funnel and you're able to just make your ads a little bit more effective, and your landing page converts just a little bit better, and you're just a little bit better at converting your leads to appointments, and you're just a little bit better in your consults, it's exponential. All of these small improvements can result in a massive amount of increased treatment at the end, which means more arches for you. Stop being at the mercy of the big full arch marketing companies. There are no longer only two ways to do more arches, either spending more money on ads or lowering your fees. You now have 28 different areas of your practice that you can work on to do more arches without spending any more money. And you now have the framework to understand your funnel, to identify your bottlenecks, and to fix those bottlenecks in your practice. And once you've mastered this funnel and fixed these leaks, that's when you spend more money on ads. And instead of that ad spend being wasted as it overflows out of the top of your funnel, now it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. Your ad spend will go way further, and you'll be doing more arches in your practice than you ever thought possible.